Welcome back to Bible Quizzes. Today's quiz is going to be about the book of Genesis. Let's get started. 1. Which of these did God create on the first day? Man, sun, moon, and stars, light, or the firmament? Light. Genesis 1:3. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. 2. Which of these was not a son of Noah? Shem, Ham, Nimrod, or Japheth? Nimrod. Genesis 5:32. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. 3. Where did God confuse the language of the world? Bethel, Luz, Babel, or Zion? Babel. Genesis 11:9. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. 4. Who was Abraham's father? Terah, Nahor, Shem, or Ethan? Terah. Genesis 11:26. After Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. 5. What made Abraham and Lot part ways? For greener pastures, they grew apart, their wives quarreled, or quarreling between their herdsmen. Quarreling between their herdsmen. Genesis 13:7. And quarreling arose between Abram's herdsmen and the herdsmen of Lot. The Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land at that time. 6. What day did God create the sky? First, second, third, or fourth? Second. Genesis 1:8. God called the expanse sky, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. 7. Why did Hagar flee from Sarah? She mistreated her, she stole from her, she wanted greener pastures, or they robbed Abraham. She mistreated her. Genesis 16:6. Your servant is in your hands, Abram said. Do with her whatever you think best. Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. 8. How many angels arrived at Sodom? 3, 2, 7, or 1? Genesis 19:1. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. 9. Who did God inflict diseases on for taking Abraham's wife as his own? Pharaoh, Elimelech, Darius, or Laban? Pharaoh. Genesis 12:17. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. 10. Whose wife became a pillar of salt? Noah, Lot, Lemuel, or Jonah? Lot. Genesis 19:12. But Lot's wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. 11. Who did Lot's daughters get pregnant for? Abraham, Terah, men of Sodom, or Lot? Lot. Genesis 19:36. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. 12. Why did God close up the wombs of the women in Abimelech's household? They worshipped idols, Abimelech took Sarah, they bore false witness, or Sarah cursed them. Abimelech took Sarah. Genesis 20:18. For the Lord had closed up every womb in Abimelech's household because of Abraham's wife Sarah. 13. How many kinds of unclean animals did God tell Noah to put in the ark? 2, 7, 4, or 1? Genesis 7:2. Take with you 7 of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 2 of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate. 14. What was Cain's occupation? Farming, hunting, teaching, or a shepherd? Farming. Genesis 4:2. Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. 15. How old was Ishmael when he was circumcised? 7, 10, 17, or 13? 13. Genesis 17:24. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13. 16. How old was Joseph when he died? 50, 100, 60, or 110? Genesis 50:26. So Joseph died at the age of 110, and after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. 17. Which of Jacob's wives died in the land of Canaan? Rebekah, Naomi, Leah, or Rachel? Rachel. Genesis 48:7. As I was returning from Paddan, to my sorrow Rachel died in the land of Canaan while we were still on the way, a little distance from Ephrath. So I buried her there beside the road of Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. 18. Where did Abraham first tell a lie about Sarah being his sister? Egypt. Genesis 12:11. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know what a beautiful woman you are. 19. Who was Dinah's mother? Leah, Zilpah, Bilhah, or Rachel? Leah. Genesis 30:21. Sometime later she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. 20. Which of Laban's daughters had weak eyes? Rachel, Bilhah, Leah, or Zilpah? Leah. Genesis 29:17. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel was lovely in form and beautiful. 21. God said man's days will be 70 years. False. Genesis 6:3. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. 22. What type of garments did God make for Adam and Eve before banishing them? Garments of leaves, garments of light, garments of skin, or garments of feathers? Garments of skin. Genesis 3:21. The Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. 23. Who was Hagar's son? Ishmael, Elimelech, or Onan? Ishmael. Genesis 16:16. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. 24. What did God change Abraham's name from? Abrai, Abram, Anoi, or Abimelech? Abram, Genesis 17:5. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. 25. What did Adam and Eve cover themselves with when they saw they were naked? Their hands, animal skin, nylons, or fig leaves? Fig leaves, Genesis 3:7. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. 26. What did Shem and Japheth do when they discovered Noah was naked? They covered him, they laughed, they prayed for him, or they told everybody. They covered him, Genesis 9:23. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. Then they walked in backward and covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned the other way so that they would not see their father's nakedness. So 27. Why did God put a mark on Cain? For decoration? To avenge Abel? For being rude to God? Or for no one to kill him? For no one to kill him. Genesis 4:15. But the Lord said to him, Not so. If anyone kills Cain, he will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. 28. Tamar was whose daughter-in-law? Reuben, Simeon, Levi, or Judah? Judah, Genesis 38:11. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, Live as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up, for he thought, he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's house. 29. What did God say will happen if Adam and Eve ate from the tree in the middle of the garden? They will die. Genesis 3:3. But did he say, You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die? 30. Which servant girl did Laban give to Leah? Haggai, Zilpah, Bathsheba, or Bilhah? Zilpah, Genesis 29:24. And Laban gave his servant girl Zilpah to his daughter as her maidservant. 31. Who did God appear to in a dream and tell him he's dead for taking Sarah? Pharaoh, Abimelech, Elimelech, or Elkanah? Abimelech, Genesis 23. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman. 32. Where was the tree that God told Adam and Eve not to eat from located? The middle of the garden, outside the garden, in the waters, or at the end of the garden? In the middle of the garden. Genesis 3:3. But God did say, You must not eat from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die. 33. How many chapters does Genesis have? 25, 50, 30, or 40? Genesis has 50 chapters. 34. Which of these was Abraham's brother? Haran, Laban, Jabez, or Ham? Haran. Genesis 11:26. After Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. 35. Which of Jacob's sons did he call the first sign of his strength? Reuben, Judah, Simeon, or Gad? Reuben, Genesis 49:3. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength, excelling in honor, excelling in power. 36. How old was Adam when he died? 1,000, 600, 930, or 700? (930). Genesis 5:5. Altogether, Adam lived 930 years and then he died. 37. What did God place on the east side of Eden to prevent man from entering? Seraphim, cherubim, a chariot of fire, or a flaming sword? Cherubim. Genesis 3:24. After he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. 38. How old was Abraham when he set out for Haran? 60, 50, 75, or 65? (75 years). Genesis 12:4. So Abram left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. 39. Which book comes after Genesis? Numbers, Leviticus, Joel, or Exodus? Exodus. The book of Exodus comes after Genesis. 40. The mountain on which Abraham wanted to sacrifice Isaac was in which region? Sinai, Horeb, Moriah, or Bethel? Moriah. Genesis 22:2. Then God said, Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. 41. Ephraim and Manasseh were the names of Joseph's sons. True. Genesis 48:1. Sometime later, Joseph was told, Your father is ill, so he took his two sons Manasseh and Ephraim along with him. 42. Who did Abraham send to get a wife for Isaac? His brother, the chief servant, a priest, or matchmaker? His chief servant. Genesis 24:2. He said to the chief servant in his household, the one in charge of all that he had, Put your hand under my thigh. 43. How old was Isaac when he was circumcised? 3 years, 1 year, 8 days, or 2 months? (8 days). Genesis 21:4. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded him. 44. Where did Cain attack Abel? In their house, in the river, in the market, or in the field? In the field. Genesis 4:8. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, Let's go out to the field. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. 45. Who was Sarah's Egyptian maidservant? Haggai. Genesis 16:3. So after Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai his wife took her Egyptian maidservant Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. 46. What did Abraham's servant give Rebekah after she gave the camels water? Jewelry, a note, money, or flowers? Jewelry. Genesis 24:22. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold nose ring weighing a beka and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels. 47. Rachel died after giving birth to who? Benjamin, Joseph, Asher, or Gad? Benjamin. Genesis 35:18. As she breathed her last, she was dying. She named her son Benoni, but his father named him Benjamin. 48. How old was Abraham when Isaac was born? 100, 105, 60, or 50? Genesis 21:5. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. 49. Who did Abraham marry after Sarah's death? Keturah, Haggai, Bilhah, or Rebekah? Keturah. Genesis 25:1. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. 50. Rebekah was Laban's sister. True. Genesis 24:29. Now Rebekah had a brother named Laban, and he hurried out to the man at the spring. 51. Which of Rebekah's twins came out grasping his brother's heel? Jacob, Perez, Zerah, or Esau? Jacob. Genesis 25:26. After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to him. 52. Where was Rebekah going to when she met Abraham's servant? To the spring, to the fields, to the desert, or to her friend's house? To the spring. Genesis 24:16. The girl was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever lain with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up again. 53. Where did the angel of God find Hagar when she ran from Sarah? Near a spring in the desert, on the road, in a cave, or in the fields? Near a spring in the desert. Genesis 16:7. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was a spring that is beside the road to Shur. 54. Which of his sons did Isaac love? Esau. Genesis 25:28. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. 55. Who violated Dinah and then proposed to marry her? Shechem, Eliezer, Laban, or Abimelech? Shechem. Genesis 34:2. When Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and violated her. 56. What did God provide as a burnt offering in place of Isaac? A chicken, a ram, a bird, or a goat? A ram. Genesis 22:13. Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. 57. What is the first book of the Bible? Genesis, Matthew, Psalms, or Malachi? Genesis. Genesis is the first book of the Bible. 58. How old was Sarah when she died? 70, 127, 100, or 120? (127 years old). Genesis 23:1. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. 59. What condition was given to Shechem for him to marry Dinah? To buy an estate, 600 cattle, circumcision, or 65 talents of gold? Circumcision. Genesis 34:15. We will give our consent to you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. 60. Who did Lot offer up to the men of Sodom instead of the angels? Himself, his 2 daughters, his neighbors, or Abraham? His 2 daughters. Genesis 19:8. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. 61. Who did Noah curse? Canaan, Ham, Japheth, or Shem? Canaan. Genesis 9:25. He said, "Cursed be to Canaan, the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers." 62. Where was Dinah when Shechem went to ask for her hand in marriage from Jacob? Inside her room, in her friend's house, at a temple, or in Shechem's house? In Shechem's house. Genesis 34:26. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. 63. What did Rachel name her second son? Benoni, Luz, Bethel, or Benjamin? Benoni. Genesis 35:18. As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Benoni, but his father named him Benjamin. 64. Who was Asher's mother? Leah, Zilpah, Bilhah, or Rachel? Zilpah. Genesis 35:26. The sons of Leah's maidservant Zilpah, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. 65. When did God rest? Day 4, day 7, day 5, or day 2? Day 7. Genesis 2:2. By the 7th day God had finished the work he had been doing, so on the 7th day he rested from all his work. 66. Which of Jacob's sons was referred to as a dreamer? Asher, Gad, Benjamin, or Joseph? Joseph. Genesis 37:19. Here comes that dreamer, they said to each other. 67. Which of her sons did Rebekah love? Shem, Jacob, Esau, or Perez? Jacob. Genesis 25:28. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. 68. What did Joseph's brother tell their father after selling him? An animal killed him, he was kidnapped, he ran away, or he was hiding? An animal killed him. Genesis 37:33. He recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces." 69. Why did Judah keep his third son from marrying Tamar? So that he wouldn't die, he was poor, she was a prostitute, or he was married? So that he wouldn't die. Genesis 38:11. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up," for he thought he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's house. 70. How old was Abraham when Ishmael was born to him? 86, 99, 60, or 80? 86. Genesis 16:16. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. 71. How many sons did Judah have? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 3. Genesis 38:5. She gave birth to still another son and named him Shelah. It was as Kezib that she gave birth to him. 72. Which of these was the curse God placed on Eve for disobedience? Childbirth pains, baldness, amnesia, or leprosy? Childbirth pains. Genesis 3:16. To the woman he said, I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing. With pain you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. 73. How many of Jacob's sons attacked and killed all the males in Shechem city? 7, 4, 2, or 12? 2. Genesis 34:25. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. 74. What was Esau's occupation? Hunting, wandering, farming, or rearing animals? 'Hunting. Genesis 25:27. The boys grew up and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was a quiet man staying among the tents. 75. Which part of man was the woman made from? His hair, thigh, stomach, or rib? 'The rib. Genesis 2:22. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. 76. Who saw Noah's nakedness? Shem, Ham, Canaan, or Japheth? 'Ham. Genesis 9:22. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his 2 brothers outside. 77. Which of Pharaoh's officials bought Joseph? His butler, Potiphar, his priest, or Potiphar? Potiphar. Genesis 31:9. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. 78. When Joseph ran from Potiphar's wife, what did he leave behind? His cloak, belt, shoes, or bag? His cloak. Genesis 39:13. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house. 79. In the baker's dream, what did Joseph say the 3 baskets represented? 3 days, the number 3, 3 women, or work? 3 days. Genesis 40:18. This is what it means, Joseph said. The 3 baskets are 3 days. And 80. How many years had passed before the cupbearer remembered Joseph? 1, 12, 2, or 7? 2. Genesis 41:1. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the Nile. And that's all our questions today. Remember, put your score down below to let us know how you did, and then compare this with your friends and family, and then we'll see you guys in the next one.